What's your story?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristin. I am a certified book addict. I love reading books and buying books and sharing all things book related with you guys. And so today's video is going to be a wrap up of all the books that I read in the month of May. And you guys, I read 10 books this month. And I know that's not a lot of books for some people, but for this girl, that's a lot of words. That's a lot of words, especially because for years, I went years without reading very many books at all. So 10 books in 1 month, that is insane. And I'm gonna try to keep this up. I'm gonna try to keep the ball rolling in the upcoming month and months of 2022, and we'll just see what happens. But so I wanted to share the books that I read this month with you guys. I'm gonna give a brief little synopsis of each one and how I rated it. I had 1 5-star and the rest were 3 or 4 stars. So pretty much overall, I had some really good books for the most part. And so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first book that I read in the month of May is The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier. This is the first book that I've read by this author. I've heard really good things about her, and this book delivered 100%. I really enjoyed starting the month off with this book. The unusual thing about this book is that you know from the get-go who the serial killer is. From the very first chapter or 2, you are made very aware who he is, and you kind of get his perspective throughout the story. And I'm not sure, I don't know if I like knowing who the serial killer, I love this book, but I don't know, I can't decide if I like knowing who the serial killer is or if I like to be kind of surprised at the end. That's beside the point. But anyway, the story follows Edward Shank, who is a retired police chief from the city of Seattle. 30 years prior to this, he had taken down the notorious Beacon Hill Butcher, who had been terrorizing Seattle. This catapulted Edward's career, made him famous, everyone adored him. Fast forward 30 years later, he is 80 years old, moving into a retirement home. He is giving his house to his grandson Matthew, who he also raised because Matthew's mom died at a very young age. And the circumstances of her death, a little sketchy, I'm just gonna say that. Anyway, he raised Matthew, so Matthew's getting the house, and let me just say, Edward is a dick, okay? There's no other way to say it. And his grandson Matthew is no different. He is also a giant douche canoe, and he's kind of a whiny bitch boy, in my opinion. It's just the vibe I get from him. He's got a girlfriend, Samantha, who don't know what this girl sees in him. Have no idea. They've been together 3 years. Samantha is a true crime writer, and she firmly believes that her mom was murdered by the Beacon Hill Butcher. The only thing is, her mom was murdered 2 years after the butcher was supposedly taken down. So she believes that the butcher is still out there, and she's kind of doing her own investigation throughout the story. Back to Matthew. He is doing some remodeling on this new house of his, kind of fixing it up the way he wants. They do some digging in the backyard, and they come across a chest that is full of some sick, twisted shit that links back to the Beacon Hill Butcher. And so Matthew does not know what to do about this. He doesn't know whether he should confront his grandfather. He doesn't know whether he should go to the police. And, you know, in whiny bitch boy fashion, he just tends to become more of a dick throughout the story as it goes along. Anywho, this story was really good. I kind of like the perspective of a serial killer. I don't know if I would want every book to be that way because I do like to be surprised kind of towards the end a little bit. I like to figure shit out as I go through the book and see if I know who it is. It was kind of just a different vibe, this whole book, just knowing who he was and getting that perspective. But I mean, I highly recommend this book. I gave it 4 stars. The only reason I gave it 4 stars is because 5 stars, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but the difference between 4 and 5 stars for me, like a 5-star really has to just blow my mind. Like I have to love it every single minute that I'm reading it. I can't stop thinking about it. I want to reread it as soon as I'm done. Like it's something that I just can't let go of, and I didn't really feel that way about this book. I mean, it was definitely a page turner. I cannot wait to read more from Jennifer Hillier, and I highly recommend this book. Okay, so the second book that I read for the month of May was Blindsided by Karen Slaughter, and you guys, this is my very first Karen Slaughter book, and oh my gosh, I was not disappointed. I was told that she pretty much does not hold back in her books. She lets it all go, like from the very beginning. Like she will start off her books with a bang, and this book was no exception. So Blindsided is the first in the Grant County series. It follows Sarah Linton, who is the town's pediatrician slash coroner, Jeffrey Tolliver, who is her ex-husband and chief of police, and Lena Adams, who is a detective on the police force. And from the very beginning, Sarah finds a young college professor named Sybil Adams, who is also Lena's twin sister, crazy, in the bathroom at a local diner, sliced and diced. And let me tell you, when I say sliced and diced, like Karen Slaughter, she gives all the gory details. She provides a very good picture of what you're looking at, and it is amazing to me because I love that type of thing. This book was gripping right from the very minute I started reading, and I really loved it. I also gave it 4 stars. I mean, I love the book itself, but once it was done, it was done. It wasn't like I was constantly thinking about it, and so I just stuck with the 4-star rating on this one. I did go out and purchase the remaining books in the Grant County series, which there are, I believe, 5. I think I had 5 that I got. I think, well, no, I still have to get 1. I still have to get Kiss Cut, which is the second one. But I do have the remaining one, so I'm really excited to get through that series. And I know Karen Slaughter has other series. What is your favorite Karen Slaughter book? That was what I would love to know. Leave that in the comments below because I love this author so much. Okay, so my third book for the month of May was The Patient by Jasper DeWitt, and I actually have that one here. Jasper DeWitt. And this book, I rated this 3 stars, I think. Did I rate it 3 stars? This book I have mixed feelings about because what drew me in to read this initially is because it follows this psychiatrist, this young psychiatrist named Parker, and he works in a mental institution. I love it when the setting of a book is a mental institution, like some kind of creepy asylum, sanitarium, I don't know, anyway, I'm not sure which one. I love that kind of a setting in a book, and so that's what really drew me to this. This gives me kind of the same vibes as The Silent Patient. I know that book gets a lot of flack in kind of the book community. I love that book personally. That's one of the first ones that I started at 2022 with, and I love The Silent Patient. I thought it had a crazy twist at the end, and it was just one of my favorites, and so I thought this one gave me those kind of vibes. And the only thing that I didn't, well, here, I'll just tell you the story. Following Parker, he is a young psychiatrist in this mental institution in New England. And in this institution, they have a patient named Joe. He has been there since he was 6 years old, and Joe baffles everyone. They have no idea how to diagnose him. They have no idea how to help him. Anyone who has ever tried to help this man has ended up trying to commit suicide eventually, or they just go batshit crazy. And so things don't end well when you try to help Joe. Well, Parker steps in, he thinks he's gonna help him, and shit starts to happen, and it just makes Parker start to question everything. Now the thing, I did like the creepy vibe of this book, and one piece of advice I will offer if you do read this, I highly recommend that you get the audiobook version. The narrator really sets the tone for the entire book. I think it's really super creepy. I liked this book. It was creepy, it was suspenseful, you wanted to know what happened. I just don't know if I liked the ending and the reasoning behind why Joe is the way he is, and kind of how it was all left hanging. I can't really get into it too much because I don't want to give away any spoilers. I'm just not completely sure that I was all the way there for that. My fourth book for the month of May is Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough, and just let's appreciate this cover, you guys. As I've said before, the cover and the title, they really draw me in, and this cover kind of drew me in because it was really cool. Okay, so I have never read a book by Sarah Pinborough before. I've heard good things about her as well, and so I was really excited to read this. Okay, so you guys, I wanted to love this book. I really did. I wanted to love it so much, but I ended up just kind of liking it. I like the characters. Well, okay, so this story follows Emma. She is just about 10 days shy of turning 40, and she struggles with insomnia. And the catch is, when her mom turned 40, she also had insomnia, and it drove her mad because of it. And so Emma is terrified that she's gonna follow in her mom's footsteps. And so this whole story follows Emma as she is progressing through these sleepless nights, and things start to happen to make her feel like she's just losing it. She's absolutely losing her mind. And I felt for Emma. Emma was a very likable character to me, just because I was like, oh, this girl, like, as she's going through all of this, her family members, I mean, everybody seems to kind of be against her throughout the whole story. I just really felt for her. Definitely wanted to know what was gonna happen. It was kind of like The Patient a little bit. I wanted to know what was gonna happen as the story progressed, but as it got to the ending, I was like, what the fuck did I just read? Like, I still, right now, I'm even thinking about it, I'm like, I don't even know what I just read. I didn't like the ending. I like books that are tangible, like, that could actually happen, and I felt like, without giving anything away, I just felt like this was a little outlandish. I did not like the ending. But all the way up until that point, I really did enjoy this book. I did give it 3 stars. I'm gonna give Sarah Penrose another go because I've got a couple of her other books on my bookshelf that I still want to read. Let me know your thoughts on her. Let me know your thoughts on any other books that you've read by her. Does she always have a weird twist at the end that is kind of like, what the hell? Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I just, like I said, gave this 3 stars. We'll leave it at that. Okay, so my 1 5-star for the month of May is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This book, oh, you guys, I swear, I don't know if it's because it was a serial killer that was a female, like total bad bitch, or what, but I enjoyed every single minute of this book. I love it. I would like to read it again at some point in the very near future because this chick was badass, and it gripped you right from the get-go. So this story follows an English professor named Scarlett Clark who works at Gorman University, and she's a very good professor. She's very well known, good at what she does, and every year she chooses the worst, most dickish male on campus, and she just plots his demise. You know, no big deal. What's one less asshole in the world, right? So as, you know, this body count starts piling up, the university starts to get a little bit suspicious, and they bring the police in to investigate. And then her latest kill, which is also her biggest one, she messes up on. And so she tries to kind of insinuate herself into the investigation and try to avoid being caught, basically. But this book, oh my gosh, I love this book so much. I don't condone murder, okay? I really don't, like, I really don't, but I'm like, I felt like I was cheering for this chick. Like, this whole book, I'm like, you go girl, like, you do you, you know? And it was just amazeballs. It was a total of 5 stars. Definitely want to read it again. I love dark academia anyway, and like this book delivered all the way. So the next book that I read for the month of May is All Her Little Secrets by Wanda Morris. I love this book so much. I went ahead and gave it 4 stars. This is a legal thriller, and it follows a woman named Elise who is a lawyer in the Atlanta area. She is the only African American in her company, and she's having an affair with her boss, who is white. She comes into the office one day and she finds him dead in his office from an apparent gunshot wound. So what does she do? She does not call for help. She just leaves the scene. And the reason that she leaves the scene is because Elise has a past that she does not really want to catch up with her. She doesn't want her past to be in the spotlight. There's been some things that has happened with her younger brother, and she just wants to kind of sweep her past under the rug, never to be brought up or seen again. And so days after her boss is found dead, she is promoted to take over his job. So people in the company start talking, suspicions arise, the cops kind of start to look at her and question her, and her past kind of starts to bubble up to the surface exactly where she does not want it. And it goes back and forth from the present moment to her past, about 30 years ago. And so Elise is just trying to figure out what is happening. She knows that there is a bunch of shady, sketchy shit going on within the company, and she's just trying her best to work her way through it and not get arrested by the cops, you know, and also to not allow her secrets to be exposed from her own past. So it was a really, really good legal thriller. I enjoyed every single minute of this book. I think Wanda Morris did a phenomenal job. It was definitely one of my favorite reads for this month. Okay, so the next book that I read for the month of May is The Haunting of Ashburn House, and I gave this 4 stars. I really, really liked this book. I liked the vibe of it. It was creepy, haunted house, creepy old house in the middle of nowhere. So this story follows a girl named Adrienne, and she inherits this house from her great aunt Edith, who really she had nothing to do with growing up, and she really has no idea who this woman even is, but here she is getting this house from her. And at the time, Adrienne is kind of in a bad place anyway. She's kind of broke and she needs a place to live, and so this seems to be like perfect timing. And she moves to this small town to move into this house, and from the get-go she knows there's something wrong with this house. She finds like creepy carvings in the wood, no mirrors in the house. All this paranormal stuff is happening. Adrienne starts investigating the mystery of this house and kind of what really happened here to her family members way back in the day. And so she uncovers a bunch of weird, paranormal, crazy stuff. And something that this book taught me is that I am not completely sure if I like the paranormal storyline. I haven't read that many books with that kind of vibe, and I just don't know. I like a walking, talking, stalking serial killer. I like somebody tangible, something you can touch. Like I like that, I think, a lot better because it's more real to me. And I'm not quite sure if the ghosty kind of vibe does it for me, but I cannot say that this book was bad because it was very, very well written. And I mean, I do recommend this book if you like the kind of creepy haunted house vibe, for sure. That's why I gave it 4 stars. And it kept me turning the page. Like, I wanted to know. I can't say there was really any boring parts in this book, at least for me. It definitely kept me turning the page. So it was a good one. Okay, Book of Cold Cases. Holy shit. This is one of my favorite books that I read this month. I just got finished with it a few days ago, and this is by Simone St. James, and this book follows a girl named, what is her name? Gwen. Okay, so this book follows Shay Collins, who is a receptionist by day, and by night she runs a website called The Book of Cold Cases, and she's done this for 10 years. She likes investigating things that no one has ever solved. One case that has always been of interest to her was the Lady Killer murders, which were 40 years ago, where 2 men were killed in cold blood, like shot right in the face for seemingly no reason at all. One woman was arrested for their murders, but then she was eventually acquitted, and her name was Beth Greer. Well, Shay, just by happenstance, runs into her one day at the clinic that she works at, and Beth agrees to be interviewed by her. So Shay goes to her house, another big creepy ass mansion, and interviews Beth. And from that point on, weird, ghostly stuff starts happening to Shay and while she's at this house, and you get the perspective from both Shay and Beth. It kind of switches back and forth, and I'm just gonna say it was a really good one. Again, we're with the paranormal kind of weird ghostly stuff. I can't say that's my favorite, but this book, it was very well written, and I think I can be a little more accepting of it when the storyline is written so well. So this was definitely one of my favorites. I gave it a 4 star. Okay, so the next book that I read is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is my first book by this author, and definitely not my last. I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. And this story follows Jules Larson, who is a girl that is just kind of down on her luck. She needs money, a place to stay, and she sees this ad for an apartment sitter for the Bartholomew, which is one of Manhattan's oldest, most high-profile apartment buildings in the city. There's a lot of mystery behind this hotel, bad things that have happened in the past, but to Jules, this is a dream come true because she thinks if she could get a job apartment sitting, she would pretty much have it made because they're offering like a lot of money to do this. So she goes and applies for the job. She finds out that there are pretty strict rules that are associated with getting this job as an apartment sitter. one of which she cannot have any visitors, she cannot spend any nights away from the apartment, and she cannot disturb any of the other residents, most of whom are rich and famous, and so she has to just leave them alone, no communication whatsoever. So as she goes along, she does start to get to know some of the residents, some of the staff members, and she meets this fellow apartment sitter named Ingrid, who she kind of feels drawn to, and they kind of become friends. And so Ingrid confides in her one time that she thinks the Bartholomew is not really what it seems to be. And pretty soon after that, Ingrid disappears. So Jules is thrown into this mystery trying to figure out what happened to Ingrid, and she's digging deeper and deeper into the Bartholomew's past, which comes up with some dark and twisted stuff when she really gets right down to it. And so this was a really good read for the month of May. I cannot wait to read more books by this author. Okay, so the last book that I read for the month of May is Unsub by Meg Gardner. I adored this book. This book reminded me how much I love the detective police perspective. I resonate so much towards those books. It's like putting yourself right in the middle of a Criminal Minds episode, and I love Criminal Minds almost more than life itself. So this book really was right up my alley. This follows Caitlin Hendricks, who is a detective. 20 years ago, her dad, Mac Hendricks, had been following a serial killer called the Prophet, who had been terrorizing the city. He was never able to apprehend this guy, never able to take him down, and he almost went mad because of it. Now, fast forward 20 years later, the Prophet has not killed anyone within that 20-year span, and now he's back. And Caitlin, she is one of the lead detectives trying to catch him. This guy, this Prophet, is like the real deal. He is badass. He is super psycho. Worst nightmares, because this guy creeps me the F out. And so this book was really, really good. This is the first in a series of 3, which I'm planning on reading the other 2 for the month of June. If you love the police perspective and you love Criminal Minds like I do, this one I highly, highly recommend. I did give this one 4 stars. It brought back my love of these type of books. That is it for the books that I've read for the month of May. That is a wrap. I will be back with a June TBR at some point in time in the next few days. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.